president today finds himself cornered by twin political calamities of his own making, with the impeachment inquiry yielding the kind of evidence that turns the president's defenders into Baghdad Bobs. The president opened up a new front today, throwing a grenade into his Senate Republican firewall by abandoning U.S. allies in Syria, a move sure to strengthen American adversaries like Iran, Russia, and Assad in Syria. Two former national security officials who work for Republicans tell me today that Donald Trump is effectively cracking his own firewall by jeopardizing the support of GOP senators who may decide his fate in a Senate trial if the House impeaches him for soliciting foreign assistance with the 2020 election. These officials said that the link between Trump's decision to leave American allies to die in northern Syria and Trump's political fate in the U.S. Senate is likely lost on Trump at this point, but not on weary GOP senators who will serve as jurors in any impeachment trial and are now armed with more evidence that Donald Trump may be a threat to U.S. national security aims. And Donald Trump's impeachment in the House becomes more likely with the emergence of a second whistleblower who has come forward to corroborate the first whistleblower's account of flagrant abuse of power and a clear attempt to get the Ukrainian president to investigate the Biden family. New York Times reports on the new whistleblower, quote, an intelligence official with firsthand knowledge has provided information related to President Trump's dealings with Ukraine and is now protected from retaliation as a whistleblower. Lawyers representing the official said, confirming that a second individual has come forward. This as two more State Department officials who were personally at the center of the scandal are set to testify on Capitol Hill this week. Tomorrow, Gordon Sondland, the U.S. envoy to the EU, who's at the center of the effort to strong-arm Ukraine into doing Donald Trump's political bidding. And on Friday, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, who, according to the whistleblower, was ousted for standing in the way of the president's Ukraine operation. And as that impeachment inquiry gains support among the general public, Donald Trump is lashing out on Twitter, calling for the impeachment of Mitt Romney, who can't be impeached at all, and accusing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of high crimes and misdemeanors, and even treason. Adding to his angst, there were fewer people defending him on the Sunday shows from inside his own camp, that would be zero, than there were on the Sunday shows after the release of the Access Hollywood tape, when campaign advisor Rudy Giuliani appeared on all of them. And even the congressional Republicans left to prop up Trump's gaslighting struggled to defend him.
George, you really think he was serious about thinking that China's going to investigate the Biden family?
I'm asking if you think it's appropriate for the president to ask China to investigate.
I think he's saying what's on the minds of so many Americans.
That's not what I'm asking. Why can't you answer yes or no? Do you think it's appropriate?
I don't, because I don't think that's what he did. I don't think that's what he did.
So you've been going 10 minutes. You still can't say whether you think it's right or wrong.
Well, I doubt if the China comment was serious, to tell you the truth.
Yes, Senator Johnson. Senator Johnson, please. Can we please answer the question that I asked you instead of trying to make Donald Trump feel better here that you're not criticizing him? I'm just trying to ask you a simple question of what made you wince. I'm asking a simple question about you clearly were upset that somehow there was an implication that military aid was being frozen because the president wanted an investigation. Why did you wince?
Because I didn't want those connected. And I was supporting the aid, as is Senator Murphy, as is everybody that went to that initial inauguration. But here's the salient point of why I came forward. When I asked the president about that, he completely denied it.
That sad state of affairs is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. With us at the table, Phil Rucker, White House bureau chief for The Washington Post, NBC News correspondent Heidi Presbella, Sam Stein, politics editor for The Daily Beast, and former RNC chairman Michael Steele, plus former assistant director for counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi's here. I got to start with you, Michael Steele.
Okay.
What was that?
That was what confusion, chaos, and trying to cover the president's backside with no talking points or no appropriate talking points or talking points that change every 3 minutes because the president has just tweeted something out that changes those talking points look like. When you're defending the indefensible, when you're asked a direct question, which is a very clear yes or no, in the case of Senator Johnson, you, sir, made it clear in your interview with the Wall Street Journal that you winced. So I'm asking you now why you winced. when you heard what the president did with Ukraine. And you can now tell me now why you winced, because he knows that if he told the truth about it, it would expose him with Trump. And that's the last thing he wants. It still matters to all of those folks you saw on that screen that their relationship with Trump is more valuable to them than the Constitution, than the American people, than our relationships with our foreign partners, to what the president's doing now. So I'm hearing all the Republicans on the Hill upset about the president's decision. Lindsey Graham is having a hissy fit about it. Well, okay, so we have selective outrage here? I mean, because the principles are the same across the board. I thought you either are down and agree with how we relate with our foreign adversaries and our partners, or you're not. Same is true here domestically. So I just look at it, and it's, you know, it's a pox on them. And the American people see this for what it is, Nicole.
I heard from a lot of Republicans today who said, "Oh, look at my tweet. Basically, give me credit for attacking him on Syria." And I was on the Estella. I'm sorry to everyone sitting here. Right. And I basically said, "F you, that's bull bleep." I mean, you want credit today?
Exactly.
That guy, the one that never wears a jacket, tried to impeach Rod Rosenstein for being the Deputy Attorney General and simply running the Justice Department. And that guy can't tell the truth about whether or not seeking collusion from China to aid Donald Trump's re-election is right or wrong.
So they pass it off as a joke. Well, you didn't think he was serious, did you, Sam? How could you think he was serious? I mean...
So now he's funny, huh?
So now he's funny. So now we're supposed to be able to discern, as are all of our other friends and partners around the globe, when the president is telling us a joke and when he's not.
And let me just say on the joke thing, like, can't land a joke at the Al Smith dinner with a gun to his head. Trump's not funny.
No, it's not.
At all.
But they seem to find humor, at least in the Ukrainian situation.
So these two former national security officials telling me that inadvertently he may be swinging a wrecking ball, and it may not open the dam on his firewall, but it's not the right day to irk his Senate Republican firewall.
Well, all this comes down to one thing that you alluded to, which is there is no communication right now between Trump, White House, and Capitol Hill and any other Republican
What would you say?
You would try to get on some sort of collective page in terms of, you know, talking points at the very least, or in the case of what's happening in northern Syria, as far as I can tell, and maybe I'm wrong in this, it seems like everyone's blindsided by this, including members of the foreign policy establishment, which is a horrific way to actually conduct foreign policy, but also an ineffective politically one. And so, yeah, it's going to be tiresome to a lot of Republicans that he's doing this, and of course you see the true believers are the only ones who will go on TV and try to make something out of this, try to make lemonade out of these lemons. But what's also interesting to me is this. When you have a collective mass of Republicans coming out and criticizing something he does, like today, he can't hit back. Right. When you have individual Republicans coming out like Mitt Romney does when he says China, hey, hack, you know, get after Joe Biden for me, then he can attack. And so there is power and strength in numbers. And I wonder if Republicans will take a lesson from today and realize, you know what, if we do this collectively, the backlash might not be as bad.
You know, you've got a great piece of reporting with your colleague, Bob Costa, out on a limb. They're out on a limb of their own choosing, swinging from a tree that was never a tree at all, but a house of cards. But take me through your reporting on the state of this defense of Trump. And it was in the context of impeachment, but this certainly all connected for these folks.
So this torrent of impeachment revelations that have come forward the last couple of weeks have effectively paralyzed the Republican Party, because you have senators, and we really focused on the senators, by the way, because these would be the jurors in an impeachment trial. They're afraid to say anything, mostly. You know, some of them will give these defenses of the president that don't totally hold up, like you saw with Senator Johnson. Mitt Romney's kind of alone in condemning the president's behavior, and most of them run away from the questions, don't want to talk. They're being advised by their strategists to be silent, to buy time, to not get ahead of events, because there are new facts that keep coming out every day here. And to Sam's point, just then I was talking for the story to a former top administration official who said, look, they are all afraid to be the zebra that strays away from the pack and gets gobbled up by the lion. But these senators know that if they hold hands and jump together, they can get to that two-thirds majority, and Trump will be gone the next day. And they're thinking about that. That doesn't mean they're going to do it, but they're aware of that dynamic.
They're watching internal polling. I mean, let's be frank about what is happening here. And specifically, what I'm told, I talked to the top Republican operative over the weekend, and I said, what is going on? And he said, it's not going to happen until you start to see the shift in his approval, and specifically drilling down on the intensity of either how much they approve of Trump or how much people disapprove of Trump. And when you see those numbers start to actually cross over, we're now there on impeachment, over 50%, but in terms of the approval ratings as well. And to your point on the dam breaking on the issue of Syria, and I've spoke also with a number of Senate Foreign Relations Committee staffers this morning, and this does seem to be something where they are really linking arms. You are seeing, you know, the hawks as well as the moderates across the board, everyone from Liz Cheney and Lindsey Graham to Susan Collins, join arms in outrage here. I think he's going to have to even potentially walk it back.
One thing, and then I want to bring Frank
on the public opinion stuff. I agree 100%, but what we've seen over the past 2 weeks is something different than that, which is Democrats were sort of torn on impeachment for a while, in large part because their leaders, their elected officials, were also hesitant to do it. As soon as those elected officials, led by Nancy Pelosi, jumped on board impeachment, you saw public opinion fall. So I wonder if the same dynamic will hold true with Republicans, where you see more Republicans come out for it. Maybe public opinion does actually switch a little bit.
And Frank Figliuzzi, one thing that is different, just to pick up on Sam's point, is that with the Russia investigation, the Mueller probe was carried out to Mueller's credit behind closed doors. It was beyond opaque. It was kept secret. It was a state secret, kept that way at the direction of Robert Mueller. Whistleblowers in the public, and I know this from having to defend policies that were unpopular with the public that were revealed by whistleblowers. Whistleblowers have almost universal credibility with the public because they have nothing to gain and everything to lose. You now have a second whistleblower coming forward over the weekend with firsthand knowledge corroborating the account of the first whistleblower. And you have Donald Trump, who has confessed to all of the conduct in question in a transcript that he released and in his own utterances on the White House property.
Yeah, if indeed reports are accurate, this second whistleblower is going to take the legs out from the argument that this is all hearsay, the whistleblower was not in the room, it's secondhand. We have somebody who firsthand has heard or participated in the call or the cover-up of the call. Trump is going to feel increasingly cornered. And I have to tell you, Nicole, we're seeing signs of that cornered mentality here, and it's getting us into a perilously dangerous situation on the global scene, and that's the Turkish incursion into Syria and Trump's acquiescence to this. Look at the language for the armchair behavioral scientists at home. Look at the language of the Trump tweet in defense of his posture with Turkey and Syria. I have great and unmatched wisdom. Great and unmatched wisdom. The only other place you'll see language similar to that is biblical. It's in Scripture. It's references to the wisdom of Solomon, and it's references to the wisdom of God in Scripture. He is increasingly showing signs not just of narcissism, but now of a messianic complex, a Messiah-like wisdom and knowledge. I'm right. Everyone else is wrong, even those who are experts on Turkish, Kurdish, and Syrian matters.
You know, Frank, I want to ask you about the conduct in question, the conduct that if he's impeached will be what gets him there, and just how out of the mainstream it is. There's some great reporting in the New York Times by Peter Baker, who wrote this. A survey of 10 former White House chiefs of staff under Presidents Ronald Reagan, Bush, Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama found that none, not one, recalled any circumstance under which the White House had solicited or accepted political help from other countries, and all said that they would have considered the very idea out of bounds. I mean, there is this bizarre way he talks about himself that makes it clear he views himself as above the law, maybe even above humankind. I don't know much about biblical references, but the conduct is also, and I think this is why the polls are shifting so dramatically. The conduct is so lawless. Nobody thinks that you can call a foreign country and say, help me bury my political opponent. It also looks weak among his base. I would think this is just a loser at every level.
It does shock the conscience, and we're beginning to see some cracks in the armor of the Republican Party. Look at Senator Portman from Ohio coming out and saying, well, it may not be impeachable, but it's outright wrong. And just recently, Trump had aligned himself with Portman and called Portman, brilliant and upstanding. So we're seeing a crack there. But the public isn't going to go for this idea of reaching out to foreigners and getting them to help with a personal favor for the election. In fact, Nicole, the great concern is that this sets us up for that terrible scenario in November where people scratch their heads and doubt the outcome of the election because of the level of foreign of foreign involvement, and that even if they don't do it, we all question whether they did and whether we can trust the outcome of the vote.
You know, Michael, so this is where I'm actually surprised and disappointed in people like Senator Burr. I was happy, as Frank said, to see Senator Portman come out and condemn the conduct. But why isn't the same coalition that today is rebuking on Twitter the Syria moves over which Secretary Mattis resigned, why aren't they responding with the same outcry and disgust over soliciting foreign interference in the 2020 election?
Well, because the latter is more political. The former is not. I mean, the former is the foreign policy space. They know more about that, number one. Number two, they believe the American public does not. Certainly the core base doesn't track that kind of information and news to the same degree. It's not like they're not interested, but it's not to the same degree where they're passionately pushing that in polling and things like that, where it shows up. You know, how you deal with Syria is important. You know, it's not the same as what you do with the wall. So I think there's that dynamic of it. But I think Sam put his finger on something that we kind of glossed over that I think is kind of important to sort of step back and assess here. And Frank would probably be sensitive to this point, too. Who is the puppeteer here? What motivated and animated the president to suddenly move? Because I think the reporting shows that a lot of folks were shocked on Capitol Hill and in the foreign policy sphere with this decision, which means he didn't talk to anyone, he didn't tell anyone. Who informed him?
Erdogan, apparently.
There you go.
Right,
so that great and unmatched wisdom was shaped and formed by someone outside of our government.
An American adversary. Frank, I'm going to give you the last word on that point.
Yeah, no, that's right on point. So we've reached the point here where someone can have a conversation with our president. He doesn't trust anyone around him. He makes the call all by himself, and he makes the wrong call. And if this keeps happening, we're going to find troops involved. We're going to find missiles involved. He's going to make a horrible call all by himself.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.